Right, welcome to the first ever live broadcast from HR Design School. Super excited to have everyone join, and we will start right about now. So hello and welcome. My name is Joy Adeyemi, and I'm the founder of HR Design School. And I'm just going to kind of go through my profile, but just super excited to have everyone. I hope people have had a great day today. So we're just going to go straight into the course or into the webinar. So just a bit of housekeeping. I'm not sure where people are joining from. If you could kind of just let us know that would be absolutely amazing. Otherwise, we will just start the show. Okay, so today's course, we're going to be covering HR trends and predictions. I know that, a lot of HR people and professionals generally kind of look at HR trends, or, you sort of study the trends, all the time just to keep abreast of what is going on. And I find them quite powerful because there is so much information out there, and if you're not paying attention to the right ones, you could miss out cues and things like that. That could be very useful in making important decisions within your career. Okay, and that's the reason that trends and predictions are exceptionally important. And I think in the last year, 2 years, 3 years almost now, since the global, COVID pandemic hit the world, a lot of organizations have had to come up with different things. And I think, you would see the increase in the level of, or in the numbers of trends and predictions that are going on. And they are majorly sort of saying the same things, okay? I like this particular quote from one of the PwC research paper. And it says that while things happen that we cannot predict, we can still be prepared. And I think this is where trends come in, because you're able to read through secondary data, primary data, you're able to read and follow the trend consistency for a while. And you can come up with decisions or come up with informed predictions as to maybe where to, place your bets. And things like that. So just a little bit about me. I got over 16 years experience within HR and the organizational design and development space. In the last, I would say 4 years, I have got very much involved in innovation and design within the HR space. So I do a lot of work on just really thinking about how, we can transform HR, we can make it look different, we can make it look better, and then come up with some sort of solution using various methodologies and tools and strategies and all of that. And I completely love that, because I think it very much ties into HR and really how HR is very much at the forefront of delivering great work experiences. And like I said earlier, I'm also the founder of HR Design School. And the mission of the school, if you follow HR Design School page, you'd find is we just really want to equip HR professionals with tools, to innovate, with tools to disrupt and really challenge the status quo, and creativity tools in HR. And those are some things that may not be talked about a lot, but actually you having those skills would exponentially transform your career. And I can say that for myself, because I've seen my career go from leaps to bounds, and I've taken roles that I would maybe never have thought about, consider to apply to, and all of that. But just having that skill kind of has enabled me to be able to do that. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about, I'll be sharing with you some of the key trends that I've been picking. I'm a trend watcher. I'm not sure I'm setting out a trend yet, but I'm definitely a trend watcher, and all of that. And I think it's quite important to be able to watch trends and see what they're doing. And I do that purposely because I want to be able to make informed decisions about my career. I need to know where I should be placing my resources, what I should be prioritizing each year, and things like that. Okay, let's dive in. So I've picked a selection of trends that I like, and also the ones that I believe would be of value to HR professionals. So these are trends that are, really big trends. These are global organizations. They tend to capture information and patterns across the globe, which makes it quite robust, because when you're looking at research, you want to make sure that they are captured from a wide range, and that the scope of the study is quite wide, because that way you're just not limited to a particular location. You're covering a wide range of people. So for example, PwC would look at future of work across the globe, and delve into specific regions so you can zone into your own area, but also you've got the benefit of looking at a wider group of trends and see whether it's kind of similar things going through or going on, and how you can kind of take advantage of that. Not so much focus on this, but I want to just share some of the trends that they're sharing with us. So if you've read it, it's really about disruptive innovation, things around creating new industry, new business models. We're going to be seeing a lot of that happening as a result of, disruption going on, whether that's technology disruption or any other kind of disruption going on. Lots and lots of new technology. So data analytics, social networks having a huge impact on how people communicate, collaborate, and work. And I'm sure you must have seen that in your organization. Organizations are beginning to do things virtually, and organizations are coming up, individuals are coming up with new novel ideas on how to run programs that would normally be run face-to-face virtually. And actually, it seems to be working. And so there's going to be lots of those coming through. Another one is really the cross-generational collusion. I don't call it collusion, I think it's more the integration happening at work, where you see the Gen Zs and the millennials, maybe some baby boomers existing within the same organization, and looking at that dynamic and seeing how it impacts on how they perceive work, the impacts on their attitude towards work, and all of those sorts of things. And one of the ones I really like about the PwC one is that many of the roles and job titles of tomorrow will be the ones we've not even thought about yet. And I think that that's quite powerful, because there is a lot of roles that we know today, and we're kind of stuck on to today's job titles. One of the things HR professionals don't realize, and I'm going to talk through that in the later slides, is we are already doing some of the roles of the future without realizing. And wouldn't it be a shame that when those roles become recognized as a role, you are well positioned to take advantage and maximize that opportunity? And I'm going to share with you just how you can do that. In their research, they've spoken to a lot of HR directors, HR people who have contributed heavily into those research. And there's just some amazing quotes from there, which gets you to start thinking. And one of it, which I quite like, is managing complexity as well as ambiguity is going to be a key trend for the future of work. Now, complexity and ambiguity is something that has been consistently talked about in different channels, but at work and everywhere else. And I think it's quite important that we just don't see them as words, but we're able to convert them into some actions, into what does that really mean for my work today? It doesn't mean carrying on as you are. There are things you could do to absolutely take advantage of what that means. And finally, the PwC Future of Work research also poses some questions for HR. And I love this. I haven't actually seen this in any of the research that I've read. And so this is quite good. And I like it because it begins to inspire you and challenge your thinking. So for example, how can you as a HR professional turn your values into a compelling element of your organization's employer brand? Think about that. Are you involved in kind of the employer branding, the employee value proposition, those sorts of things? How can you perhaps convert some of these values into that, to begin to attract the talent that, your business needs? And is your function set up to work with people who want greater say in designing their working responsibilities and reward? That's quite powerful, isn't it? If you are into designing of organization structure, these are the sorts of questions that you want to take to your design team and say, look, how do we resolve this problem? It's quite powerful. So I would definitely advise HR professionals to pick up the PwC one. If anything, focus on the summary, focus on the questions for HR, and just let that begin to, get your mind sort of thinking about what you can begin to do. Better Works is another one. It's a magazine, online magazine, and it talks about HR. We experience an increased need for data insight and AI. I think everybody kind of know artificial intelligence is no longer news, but the trend keeps coming, and that's what makes it a trend. It was talked about 10 years ago. It's still featuring now. It means that there is still a lot of scope for that trend to really, blow up in the market and come to, its full potential, it means there is still an opportunity for HR people, if you're interested in that space within HR, to really begin to get yourself ready, okay, for when it blows up. Employees will expect holistic support, right? I think that's quite clear, especially with COVID. We know that employees right now are looking for more support. And employers want learning, upskilling, reskilling opportunities, right? Employees want that. They want to be able to reskill. They're thinking, if their jobs are going to go for whatever reason, what is the organization going to be providing for them to get them prepared to maximize the new world of work? Managers are going to be taught to coach a lot. And I think HR professionals actually need to learn to coach, and then we'll be able to get the managers ready for that. And flexibility, of course, will continue to be prioritized. The Gartner top 5 priorities for HR leaders as well is also another fantastic one that you could look at. It talks about, HR taking greater accountability for driving innovation and executing business transformation in a hybrid working model. I think most organizations can testify to some kind of hybrid working strategy, or new way of working within their business, however that is panning out. And using more dynamic approach, of course, to manage shifting skills needs. Do people really need to turn up to work face-to-face to attend the training? I think there'll be greater things around simulation and experiential learning, just because, we've experienced that world. It works probably cheaper, and it latches onto the fact that, technology is really advanced, and therefore you can take advantage of that. And I think that there's going to be, and they've kind of written in here, kind of the acceleration progress and accelerated progress on diversity, equality, and inclusion. And one of the newer ones that is being added is belonging. So people are want to go beyond diversity and inclusion. I actually want to feel like I belong and I'm a part of something. And, whatever that looks like. Again, that's a good challenge for HR to say, what can we do to make people feel like they belong within our organization? And that's a different question to diversity, because diversity is right. We need to just get different people and different views, but belonging is almost the next step. And it's taking that next step to say, well, what does belonging really, really look like? And that answer lies in your people. They will tell you what it feels to belong, using various examples. So again, I'm particularly excited about those sorts of things. Okay, and the second one here, which is quite interesting, is that the HR functions are going to be organized, with greater levels of agility, customer centricity, and operational efficiency. And I think all of that will be underpinned by, just adopting the stance that HR is no longer a service, but it should be an experience. People should look at HR and almost feel like they're experiencing a service or a product, or it's an experience they're going through in their organization, and HR would have to understand the employee as the customer. So we're going to be seeing a lot of customer centricity happening in HR, and of course operational efficiency, which is enabled by technology, is going to be another one that is going to happen. And I think it already exists, but it's the so what. What else can we glean from technology that some organizations may already have, or for organizations that don't have it, what can we do? Okay. The HR Trends Institute is another very good annual kind of trends and predictions site that you could look at. They've identified 10 here, which I quite really love. And I can, resonate with some of those ones, because I know that they're already happening within my organization. So HR embracing complexity. We did talk about this in the PwC reports. HR is going to embrace more complexity. And one of the things I like, they've said, to get rid of those models. And HR really loves models, and I think models are great. I love models. They make your life easy. However, when you're living in a very complex world, models, sometimes there's no model to work with. I mean, nobody had model for navigating the COVID pandemic, right? But we went through that very well. Why? Because we had to embrace complexity. We all understood, and we embraced our vulnerability. And I think that's quite powerful when you're trying to recreate or reimagine what a new world could look like, or solving complex problems. It's all about saying, right, I don't have anything. The constraint is this has never happened before. how do I still thrive and get where I need to get to with this? HR become activists. I think this has been trending for a long time. I think by now we should kind of embrace that. The end of the employee, and I think the beginning of the customer. I think that's quite clear. You know, employees become customers. Metaverse, I think that's kind of a new upcoming trend. I think it's almost a weak signal for now for HR. Maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, we begin to see a very strong kind of signal on that. And just, you know, going into kind of the split for HR in terms of having more specialisms, having more differentiated types of roles, HR taking on different new roles within their business. I think that would be good. And again, life coaching provided by employers for their employees. Again, that's a key trend I'm seeing across many research papers. And that's just to show you that that's a strong trend. Before I go on, I just wanted to quickly share something. There are two things that we need to think about when you're kind of studying HR trends or any kind of research or trends for that matter. One, it's either strong signal or very weak signal or weak signal. Now, the strong signal means it's happening right now. A lot of people, you can resonate with it. It's already happening within your organization. Or there are regulatory things that make you recognize that these are happening and therefore you need to do something about that. Some of them will be weak signals. The things that you're not very sure. For example, metaverse is like, oh, what does that mean? Or the end of the employee becoming the customer for HR and all of that. A lot of times people don't pay attention to the weak signals because you don't really, recognize them quite quickly and easily. It's not very popular. Whereas you focus on the strong signals. Most times the strong signals, most of the time, everyone is going there and they are already maturing. So you kind of need to pivot or come up with something different. What I advise HR professionals to do is to do both. Try and do a little bit of strong signal, but also weak signal. Focus on the things that are strong signal that everybody is kind of expecting that HR professionals should be focusing on, but also focus on the weak signals, because the weak signals set you a year, 2 years, if not more apart, because you're preparing for a future that hasn't already started to exist, okay? So that's just kind of a quick tip there. So what is just the summary of all of this? And again, there's tons and tons of research. Just a quick Google search would pop up with a lot. It's just your appetite for looking at those trends. Post-pandemic disruptions will definitely continue. The Great Resignation is going to be a huge concern. But I think beyond the Great Resignation, I think there is something there around employees just wanting more variety in their lives, and a lot of people will be building more portfolio careers in terms of wanting to do different other things and still maintain work. And it's how do organizations kind of marry all of that and manage all of that together to ensure that they still get the best out of the employee, but still allow the employee enough time and motivation to focus on what they want to do, which is outside of work. And I think that's a weak signal for now, but I think that's coming. Employees definitely want more. Technological disruptions will be heightened, as we've seen. And employee well-being seems to be top priority for most organizations. We talked about diversity, inclusion, and belonging becoming a focal point for HR. And the war for talent becomes fierce. It is already fierce. And businesses are under pressure to either disrupt or die. I think businesses that were able to pivot very quickly during the COVID pandemic, you could see that they're thriving. Those that didn't have the infrastructure to thrive in that sort of disruption, they died. And multi-generational working is becoming a reality. Okay, so what can you do with all of this research? I think there's mainly three things. It's either you forget about it. I think a lot of some people would just not care, not bother, or you watch it. So some people want to watch it for a while, kind of watch and see how it goes, give themselves a little bit more time just to see how it goes and before making a decision. And some people will be proactive to say, and I'm going to plan on some. I'm going to hedge my bets on some of the ones that I think actually one is a good trend and is something quite aligned to where you see your career going. And you can begin to plan on that in terms of your development plan. And we're going to talk about all of that soon. What does this mean for HR professionals? I have been watching trends, research, and I've been studying job descriptions for roles, adverts that have been placed on LinkedIn and all of that for years. And you know what? Last week, I did a quick search on LinkedIn and I just typed in Employee Experience Director as a job title in the job search. And I had 1.5 million results on new jobs. Now, that was mind blowing because I honestly wasn't expecting that number. I was probably looking at maybe 100, probably less. But what that is telling me is that these roles are beginning to come. Now, this is just a search on the title. The reality is most roles have all of this listed in there as either expectations, skill that the organization is looking to have, or different things. And so these are some of the top skills that I believe that organizations are beginning to look for. They may covertly put them in the job description, or it may be open in the job description. But this is where, if you focus on trends and you really want to take advantage and make sure that you maximize your career, you want to make sure that you're really on top of your game so that you can market and sell yourself as what the organization needs. Knowing some of the trends, knowing some of the things that are happening externally, you can go to an interview and really shine. HR will become facilitators and co-creators. And by that, I mean, we would be facilitating events and discussion groups and brainstorming sessions on what we need to be focusing on. We will be going into places and designing the future of work together with our employees or customers. Employee experience, I've talked about that. I think that's a huge trend and it's not going to go away. Actually, I see HR getting to that point where it becomes the norm, that employee experience is the mindset for HR professionals. HR becomes coaching managers for success so that they are able to coach and empower their own people. Remote working engagement lead is also another one that is quite interesting. And that is beginning to become a really good trend, because organizations who are getting to that remote working, hybrid working model, they would begin to see, they need to have greater focus on people who may never engage with the organization on a physical face-to-face level, right? So they would be looking for that. And actually, if you do a quick search, there is future of work lead, there is remote working engagement person. They call them different titles, but these are HR professionals that will have greater focus on just engaging and looking at the experiences of people who work from home and how to ensure that their experience at home is as good as the organization has the power to be able to influence. HR will take on the role of architect. There is something called choice architecture in economics, in behavioral economics. And choice architecture is really around, if you contribute to how people use or experience a product, a service, whatever it is, you're a choice architect or choice architect. What you're doing is you are influencing, you're designing, you're thinking about that. And I see HR doing this a lot. Remember some of those questions we asked earlier, how can we make employees more engaged? It's kind of designing that kind of experience, and HR will be very much in that space. And some of us are already doing it, but it will be good to be able to call yourself what it is so that your organization begins to respect and recognize the skills that you bring within the business, so that it doesn't become just part of your job. You are actually rewarded for that. And HR, of course, will take on greater role of consultants and strategists, strategizing the new ways of working, strategizing how employees are going to pivot, how organizations are going to, become disrupt and become more innovative, building a culture of innovation, and all of that would become something that is the part and parcel of what HR would do. So what does this mean in terms of for HR? What does this mean in terms of what skills do we need to have to be or to take advantage of all of those roles? I think coaching skills, skills in innovation, skills in problem solving, the World Economic Forum 2015 skills, log 2020, all of them talks about innovation, creativity, problem solving as the top, and communication actually as the top skills that people need. And I think for HR, it's even more important that we have those skills. And the number 5 on this list for me is so important, because I've started to realize that HR directors, if you read some of the research that we've just gone through, the PwC, Deloitte, the rest of them, when they're talking to HR leaders are beginning to look outside of HR for the skills they need inside of HR. And I'm going to give you an example. We have a lot of product designers. I predict a lot of product designers who understand the science behind how people engage with a particular product. For example, let's take a phone, the iPhone, for example. We're going to have greater interest in product design, and how, if HR becomes a product, how do we manage that? How do we ensure that the encounter, the service, the engagement they have, and the interaction they have with that product, how do we ensure that it works really well? Facilitation, project management, co-creation, ethnographic research is another one that HR don't tend to do very well, but I think that it's a very salient trend. But if you can develop yourself in skills on research and ethnographic research, which simply means you doing field work and going into where the problem is coming from to be able to solve it, I think that that would be really, really good. And of course, data analysis, to be able to analyze data. And actually, that's a very strong signal. It's just taking advantage of that and just seeing, how do you glean insights from data? So those are kind of the high level trends, the skills HR would need to develop in the new world to be able to take advantage of all of the fantastic things that's happening. And one of the key things I would leave with is these roles, being a facilitator and a co-creator, being an employee experience designer, the future of work lead or remote working engagement lead or partner, becoming a HR choice architect and a consultant and a strategist. These are roles, if you type on in Google or LinkedIn, these are roles that already exist. They could exist as a full-on role where they expect, an organization expects someone to completely focus on employee experience, or they could be embedded within job descriptions. One of the things that I would advise HR people to do is, when you get familiar with all of these roles and you identify the one that you want to become part of, or actually nothing's stopping you from doing any of all of this, then you begin to develop yourself and gain mastery, so that when your organization becomes mature and ready for some of these roles in the near future, you are ready and you are one of the top people to be considered for that. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have a great career experience, okay? And so how can HR Design School help? We can help by doing webinars like this. We're going to be getting lots of experts in various fields around, HR that can really share insights, or we can glean from their insight and experience around unique skills within HR and how we can really transform our career, how we can become more creative with the way that we deliver our service, how we can become innovative, learn from some of their success stories. We're going to be doing a lot of that. So if you know any HR professional at whatever level, in whatever country they exist, that would be interested to share their experience, please let us know. We've got a contact form online, and you can reach us via LinkedIn as well. And we're also going to have courses that are cohort courses where people can register and then be part of a cohort, and we will design and take them through a rigorous learning and lessons around things like design thinking, HR innovation, employee experience design, HR strategy design, policy design, and all of that. All of that is what we're going to be doing, and we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to bring that to you. And we're also going to have podcasts and newsletters. Our podcast, HR by Design, will be launching very soon. We're currently talking to people, and we're going to have a lot that we would be sharing, just learning inspirational stories from HR professionals that are doing fantastic work. So that's the end of the webinar, and I'm so pleased. I can't see that we've got any chat. If people, okay, actually someone has just put a chat on there. Fantastic. Yes, great takeaways for someone who, let me pin that and see. Yes, fantastic. Yeah, who is early in their career. Thank you. That absolutely. And I think you're right. I think being early in career is actually a really good thing, because you probably haven't been stuck in some of the old ways of HR doing things. So it just means that you have the opportunity, to do new things and to come up with creative ideas and to really set your career in a way that you want to build it. I think it's taking me, what, 15 years to be able to identify as somebody that is a HR innovator, somebody that wants to really transform and do things in a different way. And I think that that's you have got the opportunity, new career entrants have got the opportunity to say, do you know what, I want to be known as a HR design architect, and I'm going to keep doing that. I will take advantage of any roles, and I will do any work that allows me to really design and be able to take advantage of technology to be able to transform work. And I think that's such a fantastic opportunity. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to be ending the stream. And if you've got any question, you can always leave it in the chat. We'll be checking. I'll get one of our teams to check. But otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic career, and share this live stream with your friends and colleagues everywhere. And look forward to the next one, and have a great weekend. Take care.